Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. Here's another chapter of my Dharma tributaries. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Uh, Today we're going to review the story Sealskin Soulskin. A lot of the Irish tales reflect back on seals having the ability to take off their skins and become human beings. Anyway, before we get into that, a couple of reminders from the world of how to awaken joy and how to use the power of affirmation to benefit yourself. Well, can't be said enough, attitude of gratitude. As you cultivate the habit of being grateful for the things that are in your life, count your blessings, your mind naturally comes to rest on the goodness that's in your life. You can't force gratitude, right? You can't be phony about it. It'll frustrate you and close you down. But if you learn to, at a choice, put your attention to the things that are in your life and not just what's missing in your life, then you realize other people's presence in your life helps you live and thrive. And that list is nearly endless. Once you get on this bandwagon, you'll see it constantly. So think about how grateful you are for the people in your life and tell them. It's like one of my affirmations says, I have faith in people and people have faith in me. I have people in my life who I trust and people who trust me. People in my life who I care about and people who care about me. And so on. You just rev that list, keep on going. So express your attitude of gratitude whenever the opportunity arises, which I hope is daily. So that's one way that you can understand what it is to access joy. Now, in terms of getting what you want in life, or creating a life that's having more of what you want and less of what you don't want, you can have it, but the idea is, are you prepared for the responsibilities that come along with it? A lot of responsibilities, it's a heavy load, but what else is more important to you than being who you can be? So part of this idea is, at least in this mental world, you have nothing to deal with except your own thoughts, your own mental outlook. Don't wait around for something else to come into your life and change, right? Even if you're praying for guidance, right? Ultimately, you change your own mental outlook and then you up and move a couple of things. It's always going to be in action. What are you going to do? How are you going to show your sankalpa or intention? By your follow-up, by your actions. And so in general, to solve any problem you have to rise in consciousness, see it from another perspective, something more inclusive, something more intelligent than what you've been doing. And if you do that, it's like you cast your burdens aside in this world, this mental world, and you create virtual harmony. You only think the thoughts that are the ones you want to see duplicate or become more. Remember, that's one of the basic laws, the law of attraction. That which is like unto itself is drawn, and whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of that in your life. So to me, it's almost astonishing when people don't feel good because there's choices that they're not making, and with far less effort than you think. Right? You turn your thoughts and it becomes habitual and you get a groove going on because whatever you put your attention to is becoming more. And just like the Beatles songs, it's getting better all the time. It's getting better. There's no top to this. Like the tip of the iceberg. Once you discover what this is, there's a mine, a wealth, a treasure house of abundance just inside your own nervous system. And you can have this clarity, you can have this joy, you can have this wealth, not just physical wealth, but the wealth of just being alive, the gift of life itself. And I spend virtually no time justifying any negative emotion by putting out the reason for it. That to me is time ill spent. I let go of that. It's not like I don't see it, it's not like I don't understand it. I just don't indulge myself in it and spend more time looking for the best feelings I can find. That's one of my other mantras. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Not just because I'm a selfish person, but because that goodness is something that not only blesses me, but it comes into the world. And if more people were doing that, we would have a better interaction with each other, better relationships, more trust, more negotiation. And so, do it. Don't wait. Now, to that end, this is from a chapter in Clarissa Pinkola Estes' book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, that's entitled Honing In. Honing In. Do you know where you belong? And what happens when you're not in the environment where you know how to thrive? Once upon a time, there was a hunter who lived up in the Arctic area, and he was very lonely. His whole life, he was not able to make a connection, to have a relationship, have a family, and he cried such copious tears. He was so lonely that it cut like crags in his face. It was just so sad. One day when he was out hunting and he hadn't caught anything, he was moving his kayak through the ice floes and he thought he heard voices. So he drifted over toward where this big open rock in the middle of the ocean. And as he came upon it, he thought he heard not only voices, but singing. And then as he came closer, he saw these 4 women, elegant, moonlight, lithe-like, beautiful women, dancing in the moonlight, naked as the day they were on their mother's belly. And he saw that the sealskins were lying on the ground. And so he grabbed one. I don't know what motivated him to do, but he grabbed one and he put it in his parka. And then he was just watching what was going on. And then after a long while or a short while or whatever time it takes in these stories, 3 of the 4 women grabbed their sealskins, put the sealskins back on, turned into seals, and dove back in the water. Except for this one who was looking all over for her sealskin. She couldn't find it. Oh, God. And so he came out of hiding and said, I have your sealskin. Be my wife. Be my wife. He said, you have to give me my sealskin back. I can't return to being who I am unless I have my sealskin. He says, listen, be my wife, and after 7 years together, I'll give you your sealskin back. And at first she thought, 7 years without my sealskin, I can't do that. But you know, they say that seals have eyes that when they look at you, it looks so human, so wild, so spontaneous, so understanding. So she said, all right, I'll be your wife if you give me the skin back in 7 years. He says, I definitely will. Like a bargain made without knowing. Anyway, she went off with him, and in a year they had a son who they named Uruk. And he grew up learning both the stories about the creatures underneath the sea and the stories from the father about the creatures that were on the land. And so he was getting quite an education. But as the time went on, the seal woman started to lose her luster. Her eyes didn't have the same sheen. Her skin started to look dehydrated. Her energy was kind of listless. And by the time it got to 7 years, she was just a shell of her former beautiful wildness. Then one night, when Uruk was trying to sleep, he heard this bellowing and arguing going on between the father and the mother. She was saying, it's 7 years now. You have to give me the sealskin back like you promised. And he was saying, I'm not going to give you the sealskin back because I know that you'll leave me once you have it. You'll leave me and you'll leave the boy. And she said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have to have the sealskin back. But he took the sealskin and he went outside and that was it. And she was crying piteously. So Uruk went to sleep that night. He was really, really troubled. And then, couldn't tell if it was the winds playing on his mind, but he thought as he was lying there that he heard this voice calling to him, Uruk, Uruk. And he put on his parka quickly, put on his mucklucks, and he went out to try to trace where he felt the voice was coming from. And there, right at the edge of where the land meets the water, looked like amazingly big walrus, silver in color, that he pushed out something onto the land. And Uruk, out of curiosity, went to see what it was. And he could tell right away it was his mother's sealskin. And he picked it up Oh, I smelled it. It was so good. It really smelled the essence of her. Oh, it was fantastic. So he got it immediately. He ran to his mother and said, Mom, look, I have your sealskin. Oh, she was overjoyed. So she immediately put it on and started waddling back to the water. He said, where are you going? He says, I can't stay here. I'll die if I stay here. He said, you have to take me with you. How can I take you with you? You don't belong down here. You belong up here. And she said, I can't leave my son. So she grabbed him and gave him 3 big blasts of breathing. And she blew the breath of life into him so he could swim with her. And she took him down. And he was perfectly adapted underneath the water to breathe as if he had a scuba tank on. And so she just took him down. And there she met the walrus, which was the grandfather. And she took him into the realm where he met all his seal cousins. And it was a great rejoicing and feast, not only because she had come back to her people, but now the grandson had come. And he enjoyed his time there for a little time or a long time, whatever time it takes, until the grandfather said, well, he can't stay here. It's not his time yet. And she understood. And so, although it was a sad thing, she said, listen, you have to go back to the surface, but I'll always be there with you. Keep my hulu knife and use it to carve and remember me by. And so up they went to the surface, both the walrus and the sealskin mom. And then they put the boy back on land and they bid him farewell. But he grew into the great hunter that was destined to make a connection with that underwater realm. He never lacked for food, and he understood not only the creatures that were below the sea, but the creatures up on land, which was the gift legacy that he got from his father. And they said that you could still see him every now and then out in his kayak, bending down and talking to what looked like a seal who everybody tried to catch, but nobody ever could, because she retained that wild quality. And anytime you looked into her eyes, you could almost swear she was human. So I hope you understand. Go back to the realm that you belong in. Notice what happens when you're not in that place, how you dry up, and in some way you feel completely out of sorts. So may you all get your sealskins back.